All right, everyone, we start off today with major news, of course, in what's happening over in Gaza, specifically, more widely Israel, Palestine, and now surrounding areas, of course, Syria. There were airstrikes the other day by the IDF there. There have been a number of incursions by Hezbollah and Israel on that border, of course, with Lebanon. And supposedly some sort of activity really early on went on in Rafah in Egypt. The Egyptians tight-lipped about that, but they did manage to conclude, hey, we can't open the Rafah crossing. It's been bombed. Anyway, now Gaza has seen its first significant land incursion. And this isn't the end of it. The details of this are not at the moment 100% clear because this was only a few hours ago. Netanyahu, in the contemporary sense, had said, well, the ground invasion is coming, so basically hold on to your assholes, boys. Then there was an incursion. It's not exactly clear to what scope it was, just that it was, it was more than a couple of tanks attacking certain Hamas targets near the border, and that's not the main invasion. So the actual ground invasion does appear to be imminent, probably in the next couple of days, and this may be to soften up some of the Hamas targets to be able to establish better air superiority, to clear areas out so that you don't have to start fighting immediately at the Israel-Palestine border. You've pushed it back a mile or something, so you have a little bit of breathing room in case you do have to set up an escape route for people who come under too heavy of fire or something. Some unit would otherwise get pinned down. Having a little bit of latitude makes sense. So it appears that this is like a preemptive sort of strategic attack more than anything else. But we're not 100% sure because fog of war style, you're going to get different reports on like what kind of targets there were. And so I would caution people, you're going to hear one thing from Israel's state media, another thing from Hamas/Palestinian sources, another thing from online commentators who back one side or the other or nobody. Certainly you'll hear something different from the UN watchdog, the US State Department, the Kremlin, Beijing. The list goes on, and so it's not going to be immediately clear what's happening. But it does appear there will be an actual ground invasion. Now, the spicy part is that Iran has already warned that would not float their boat, and that they intend to get directly involved if that occurs. And we got the report the other day, U.S. forces had come under attack numerous times over the last month by Hezbollah, as well as other groups in the region that are funded or run in part by Iran. There was also a little bit of a mixed message on that, because of course Biden, right before that came, totally coincidental, the timing by the way, Biden had come out and said, well man, we're going to get more involved in what's happening here if our troops are attacked. Well, they've come under attack specifically by suicide drones mainly, and mortar fire, and the normal thing that happens in the region anyway, even when there's seeming calm. It's like, it's basically every weekend or so somebody fires a mortar or triggers an IED anyway, because it's the Middle East. But it's not clear that they're referring to direct Iranian involvement or whether they're referring to non-state actors that simply answer in part to Iran. Again, Hezbollah is involved with those goings-ons. There are groups in Iraq. A lot of these attacks are actually over there. Again, the threat is that it inflames into a regional conflict. Things could get very messy very fast, and the United States military readiness right now is not, I think, capable of coping with it. Janet Yellen can come out and say from a purely economic perspective, don't worry, we can afford 2 wars at one time. Yeah, I don't see if that would be a problem. Opening up a second front right now against the Eastern Bloc would be perfectly peachy keen. Of course, then China might decide to haul off on Taiwan or something like that. Can we afford 3, Janet? It's not entirely sure. We're having trouble affording just Ukraine. You look at the U.S. economy. We're not in a position right now where we have the readiness. We're running low on certain types of ammunition, which takes time to amp up production for if you want more of it and you need more of it. We're having recruiting problems with the U.S. military because it's gone woke and it's become a joke. The readiness level is low, and this comes from official reporting from the military. The readiness just isn't there. A direct involvement in the Middle East while also sending a shit ton of weapons and aid to Ukraine under the circumstances doesn't make sense. Even under good circumstances it wouldn't. Like, let's say the troop readiness of the of the 90s or the troop readiness under Trump maybe in year 3 or something. That's much more beefy than it is currently under Biden's feckless so-called leadership. But even then, it wouldn't really make sense. I mean, some of those troops, we don't even need troops in some parts of those regions anyway. Trump was trying to draw them down, by the way, and in part was misled by his own envoy. I'm beginning to wonder if maybe the deep state goal over the intermediate future is actually a war to decapitate Iran. That it's really just a proxy conflict, East and West bloc, that literally is all that it is, and you're basically looking for an excuse. You know that at some point Hamas is going to attack the Israelis, or Hezbollah is going to attack someone, or there'll be some sort of conflict in the Sinai, or there'll be a conflict, an uprising in some town in Iraq, and all you have to do is have a spattering of U.S. troops in the region, a dude gets killed, and then you declare war. Well, you don't declare war, you escalate to conflict and combat. We don't declare wars anymore. Congress has decided that it's no longer its job to do what it's constitutionally obligated to do. So anyway, you wait for that inevitable to occur, and then you attack. I think they wanted to do this under Trump. That's why Milley supposedly gave him that paper that Trump allegedly showed to other people in the Mar-a-Lago. I'm not sure that he did, but the allegation is that Milley wanted him to haul off and attack the Iranians. Well, we're sort of setting up a situation here where the rhetoric from Blinken, the rhetoric from Biden, certainly U.S. policy in the region, and the movement of our troops in that region is going to lead us into that direct conflict, which would be catastrophic and could lead to a nuclear war, just to be clear. If things go wrong and Iran says enough is enough and all of a sudden 100,000 people are marching on Tel Aviv, you may see the Samson option employed. If things are going well, and that's again subjective, it depends on whether you even have skin in the game thinking about what goes on in, the Levant / parts of the Middle East and Central Asia, if you care. I think people should live in peace, but they seem incapable of that, so maybe we're just doomed as a species. Things are going well, Russia gets involved. You end up with a situation sort of similar to what happened in Korea. If you know anything about the Korea War, with the United States and Western forces. They were winning. After a surge of Korean forces and several victories had driven them almost out of the peninsula, they managed to recuperate and push them back almost to the Chinese border. They had effectively taken over about 80% of the Korean peninsula, well into what's now North Korea. The Chinese then got involved. And then, of course, you had a diplomatic parley splitting the country roughly in half. And that's why Korea looks the way it does today. You could see the same thing in Iran. Maybe U.S. troops do go in. And at first, Russia, necessarily, it's distracted by Ukraine, number one. It's got a lot of troops and assets there. Number two, a direct confrontation between two nuclear powers is exceptionally dangerous. But then let's say Iran starts losing, and they start worrying about the United States establishing a puppet state or carving the nation in half or something. They may get directly involved. And you got to realize it's not just the Iranian forces that you'd be worrying about. Every Hezbollah member would immediately march in. Other groups would march in. It would begin to resemble Armageddon. You'd have two major wars in the same general region involving a proto-nuclear state backed by the other main nuclear power and an actual nuclear state backed by the other main nuclear power, the United States and Israel, in that dichotomy, of course. And then you have a real powder keg scenario involved. I don't think these people really have fully thought it out. I'm just going to assume in some cases it's the breakdown of basic intelligence and incompetence. I think that the warmongering aspect is evil, but I think that the worrying about the results of that warmongering actually is more obliviousness than anything else. These people, you look at who's leading the U.S. military right now. It's not necessarily the meritocracy that it was in the 50s or the 60s. It's become more of a woke idpol front. It's become weaker. I don't think, never is the time to have war unless you absolutely have to, but if you're going to warmonger, at the very least, you should make sure that your well-oiled military machine can actually keep up under the strain. So with Israel invading Gaza and preparing for a larger invasion, you risk having the exact sort of scenario in which everything that can go wrong does go wrong, in just the right way to cause an international incident of the A+ type, instead of just, oh, okay, well, this is a major war, but it's effectively between Israel and Palestine with a few other interested parties skirmishing occasionally. Okay, well, that's relatively limited, geographically and in terms of manpower, firepower, etc. We're seeing Gaza being leveled right now, but, I mean, nobody's bombing Tehran, nobody's bombing Baghdad, nobody's bombing Riyadh or Cairo or anything like that. What happens with our tenuous alliance with Turkey at this point? They're a NATO member, but at the same time, Erdogan comes out and says he doesn't consider Hamas to be a terrorist organization. What if the Turks get involved? They've got a first world military capability. What if the Egyptians get involved? They might do that just to counterbalance Turkish influence if they think they need to. They tend to lean more west, although they've also been considering BRICS membership. So the entire area is currently being shaken up. It's not clear what's going to happen, and that uncertainty is not usually a healthy thing for such maneuvers. So, we're sitting back and, you get your helmet on because there might be some debris falling your way. That's about all. Peace out.